Hello, my dear students. The lesson of today is the importance of sunlight to living organisms. But what are the living organisms? They are humans, animals, and plants. But we will start our lesson with the importance of sunlight to plants. When you are hungry, what will you do? You will go to your mom and tell her, Mom, I am hungry, I want to eat. So your mom will cook for you and you can eat. But what about the plant? Can your mom cook food for the plant? Of course no. Why? Because the plant cannot eat. So how can the plant get its food? Do you know that the plant makes its own food by itself? But for the plant, it's not called cooking, it's called photosynthesis process. It's called photosynthesis process. Let's see the next video. Before talking about the photosynthesis process, do you remember what are the parts of the plant? The plant consists of leaves that are called green parts of plant, stem, roots that grow in the soil. The leaves absorb the sunlight. The roots absorb the water and mineral salts from the soil. Now I will talk about the photosynthesis process. How does the plant make its own food? What does it need to do it? The plant needs three things: carbon dioxide gas from the air, sunlight from the sun, water and mineral salts from the soil. As we see in this video, the plant absorbs carbon dioxide, water and sunlight and makes its own food, which is sugar or starch. So the food which the plant makes it is the sugar or starch, and the plant produces another gas which is called oxygen gas. So in the photosynthesis process, the plant absorbs three things: sunlight from the sun, carbon dioxide from the air, water and mineral salts from the soil. The plant produces its own food. Its food is sugar or starch, and produces another gas, is oxygen gas. So in the photosynthesis process, the plant absorbs carbon dioxide gas and produces oxygen gas. What's meant by photosynthesis process? It's a biological process. What? A biological process. What's meant by biological? Biological means it happens in the living organisms. So photosynthesis process, it's a biological process, takes place or happens in the green parts of plant. What? Green parts. Yes, I said before, the green parts of plant are called leaves. So photosynthesis process is a biological process that takes place in the green parts or leaves to make its own food, which is the sugar or starch, in the presence of sunlight, water, carbon dioxide, and mineral salts. So you know now the definition of photosynthesis process. The definition is: a biological process takes place in the plant green parts or leaves to make its own food, in the presence of sunlight, water, carbon dioxide, and mineral salts. Now, how can the plant absorb the sunlight? As I said before, in the photosynthesis process, the plant absorbs sunlight. How? As you studied in primary 4, if you remember, the plant cell contains chloroplasts. The plant cell contains chloroplasts. What does the chloroplast do? The chloroplast absorbs the sunlight to help the plant to make its own food by photosynthesis process, and it gives the green color to the leaves. So the chloroplast absorbs the sunlight and it gives the green color to the leaves. Now we will talk about the importance of sunlight to the all living organisms. As we know, the plant needs the sunlight to make its own food. The animals and humans depend on the plant to eat. So all living organisms need the sunlight to eat and to grow. Because the plants can make their own food, the plants are called producers. But what about the animals? Because animals cannot make their own food and they depend on plants to eat, so they consume the plants and they are called consumers. So until now we have two types of living organisms. Number 1, producers, which are living organisms that can make their own food as plants. Number 2, consumers, which are living organisms that depend on plant to get their food as animals and humans. We have another type of living organisms. They cannot make their own food like plants, and they don't depend on plants in feeding like animals. These organisms are called decomposers. They are living organisms. They get their food by decomposing or eating the dead bodies or food remains. They decomposing means eating dead bodies, dead, and food remains as rotten fruit, rotten bread. They are called food remains. Decomposers as some types of bacteria and some types of fungi as mushroom. So we have three types of living organisms. Number 1, producers. Number 2, consumers. Number 3, decomposers. Producers, they are living organisms that can make their own food as plants. Consumers, they are living organisms that depend on plants or producers to eat or to get their food, as animals and human. Decomposers, they are living organisms that get their food by decomposing dead bodies and food remains, as some bacteria and some fungi as mushrooms.